Good morning. This is Patrick Malley, Chief Academic Officer for Bay City Public Schools, with an informational video summarizing possible options for a return to in-person learning. Before I start, please understand that the options presented in this video are not exhaustive. We've been able to learn much over the past few weeks from what has worked in other districts that started school in person sooner. The options presented are our district administration summary of models we see in other locations, with full understanding that each of these models has their own strengths and weaknesses. We look forward to feedback from all of our employees regarding how each of these options impacts your work in our schools. The three options I'll be summarizing in this video are: 1. A full return to in-person learning. 2. The return of students in grades K through 5 and in special education first. And 3. A hybrid return of all students on an A-B schedule. As a public school district, the first option, a return to in-person learning for all students, remains our top priority. The question for all of us and for our community is when and how we will return. In August, while working in collaboration with other area districts, we developed plans for a full return under the premise that being back in schools was best for students. Coming to our buildings, even under strict safety guidelines, provides our students the best opportunity to learn in a safe, caring, and controlled environment. Of course, having all students back full-time would make social distancing a challenge, or impossible in some areas. If all students were to return to in-person learning, we would all have to adhere to the use of mitigation methods and enhanced cleaning protocols like other area districts have employed to keep their students and staff safely back in classrooms full-time. The full return to in-person learning is arguably a simpler model to implement, as it is our default model when not in a pandemic. We all know what teaching and learning in school buildings looks like. What we'd have to learn are the building-specific safety protocols that are being worked out by school teams in line with the district's return to learn plan. Fortunately, that plan was drafted prior to the board's vote to start remotely, and our building leaders have had considerable time to consider it, question it, and solve problems related to it that were previously unknown. If we were to fully return to in-person learning, we could rely more on the traditional school schedules, modified somewhat of course to limit the number of students in hallways and at lunch. And we could continue to offer the virtual program for families who feel they are not yet comfortable sending their students to school or who wish not to participate in the necessary safety protocols. The second option we must consider is the full return of our most vulnerable students, which include our students in grades K through 5 and those who receive special education services. This more phased-in approach acknowledges the urgency we all feel to ensure that our most vulnerable students receive the education they need to be successful later in education and in life. It also provides a pathway toward a full return to in-person learning for all students without doing it all at once. Drawbacks include the obvious inequality in the way we deliver instruction to elementary versus secondary students during the phase-in period, and the similar challenge of social distancing if all elementary students in a given classroom or school are back in the building full-time. Early implementation of this option would be the most straightforward for our elementary schools. They would follow a full return plan as outlined above. We would need to establish a schedule of in-person offerings for special education services, accommodations, and interventions in order to support these students at the secondary level. And we'd have further planning to do to phase in the remaining secondary students full-time. The third option is a hybrid model we've seen implemented at various districts across the nation this fall. While each district's plan looks a little different to address their local needs, there are a few characteristics in common that are worth considering for our schools. Under a hybrid return, each student would be put into one of two cohorts. Students in Cohort A would attend in person only on Mondays and Thursdays. Students in Cohort B would attend in person only on Tuesdays and Fridays. And all students would be remote on Wednesdays so that schools could be cleaned more thoroughly. In this model, best practice would be for teachers' instructional focus while in person each day to be with the students who are physically present at the school. Students would be given ample independent or project-based work to be completed while they are remote. For example, a third grade teacher would provide the same lessons 2 days in a row, once for half their students on Cohort A, and again for the other half of students in Cohort B. While Cohort A is in person, Cohort B is working independently in preparation for their next in-person class, and vice versa. If choosing this option, the same mitigation methods and enhanced cleaning protocols addressed previously in this video would need to be in place, and students and staff safety needs would require it. But with only half the students in classrooms on any given day, this model is optimized for increased social distancing. Like our previous two options presented, we would implement a hybrid return to in-person learning by utilizing our established safety teams to identify building-specific protocols that align with the district's return-to-learn plan. We would rely on our traditional school schedules for those students who were in person each day and would continue offering the virtual program for families who are not yet comfortable sending their students to school. To implement a hybrid return on an A-B schedule, we would need to develop cohorts of students while keeping siblings in the same cohort wherever possible, and we would need to provide our teachers professional development to best support this shift in instructional model. Now that you've heard what the district is considering, we need your feedback. None of the models presented are perfect. If there was a perfect option, we would have chosen it already. For this reason, we want to know what's front of mind for you as we work to educate our board on making this challenging decision. Using the Thought Exchange survey, please tell us what elements of what I've shared in this video you would include in an ideal plan for returning to in-person learning. After sharing your thoughts, please take time to rate the thoughts shared by others. Through your ratings, we can identify patterns of the ideas that are in common or most controversial. This Thought Exchange survey will close on Friday night. Your feedback will be used to inform the board's discussion next Tuesday. On behalf of the district administration team, thank you all for what you continue to do each day for our students.